Hey, good people. Davia here. Welcome to Tales from the Shaker, a Davia Williams Stevenson podcast. I got a sister for y'all today. Kimberly Minor. I usually love to do some sort of brief introduction. And in Tales from the Shaker, we certainly want to celebrate your professional accomplishments. We do. We're proud of that. But I'm more interested in the story because there are people who are along their story. They don't know that they can get to where you are. What is the event or thoughts or whatever that shook you into a new space? And you're doing some new things. But I can't dismiss this, so I'm gonna read it to y'all. I didn't know how to shorten it, and she was gracious to edit it down for me. Kimberly is a creative executive with over 25 years of senior suite leadership experience in maximizing brands, connecting communities, and growing businesses. Her international professional experience spans from Foot Locker Global Incorporated to brand president of London Fog and Joe Boxer to L Brands, where she led a $2 billion home business. Okay, so what do you mean by a home designs or from your home?
So L Brands, I was with Bath and Body Works where I was the chief merchant for the home business. So I started with home fragrance and then was given all of home. So I had White Barn and all of the beautiful accessories for the home and for the family and candles and all of that. And so when I started, it was a $1.5 billion business. And by the time I left, it was a little more than $2 billion. So
Billions,
that was
y'all. We're not talking. These are large increments.
It was a good experience. I also created the merchandise strategy organization for the business, which led the $5 billion business. So, big numbers.
She's got a lot of experience. In the fashion industry as well, though, right? You've had your own lines.
Yes.
Correct?
And so I didn't even put that in there. I didn't want people to know how old I really was.
Well, we're not using any numbers. I'm not telling anybody how old I am, which I think is older than you.
I don't know. We look very good.
Yes, we do.
I was in the fashion business. I did have my own line. It was MSL Collections. And we sold to Saks and Nordstrom. We also Forgotten Woman because we did from size 2 to size 3X, and it was all about fashion. And so the exposure that we got and the recognition really was in the larger sizes because they hadn't, this was in the 90s and people just weren't doing that. They still were designing fashion for a very small person. And whenever I would go to meet with the editors of the magazines and Essence and Mode magazine was out at the time, they were always shocked that I was the size that and I said, I'm just a small person, but no one in my family is small. And if I'm going to create something, I'm going to create something that my family can benefit from first, right? They're all beautiful women and they want to look good all the time. And so that was an amazing journey. This is based on relationship, right? Yeah. And much of life is. And so I had been at Express for many years when I decided to start my line. So I started with Express. When I got out of grad school, I went to Macy's executive training program. Never thought I was going to get into fashion. I've always loved it. I designed clothes. I've designed all of my friends' wedding gowns. Like, I loved it personally. It wasn't something that I aspired to do. And so when you talk about the journey and how people want to know how you got to where you are, I love to just really share with people that I am not trained or educated in what I've done.
I love that. I didn't know that.
I know.
But I love hearing that.
I did not plan to set out to be in fashion or learn how to design. I just did it because I loved it. And my godmother, she made patterns and she was a seamstress. And so she taught me how to do it. I went to school to do this. My degree is in radio, television, and film from Temple University. Wow. And I was, when I was in junior high school, I had a news program. I was one of those junior newscasters. And I thought that's what I was going to do. And as I was interviewing, sending out tapes and going in for interviews, um, I think part ego, but a larger part in that I just knew myself well enough to know what I wasn't willing to do for my career. And I remember coming back and talking to my my college advisor after one special interview. Like I was interning and working at Power 99 in Philadelphia. It was the number one station in the city. And I went on an interview, and they didn't care about my resume. They didn't want to know anything. That the program director, or it was a TV station, he just wanted to know my heritage because, oh, you're so exotic looking. And every time he asked a question, he just got closer and closer. And it happened repeatedly. And I remember after like the third, and I said to my advisor, I'm on a full scholarship. I'm an intelligent person. I'm working really hard. No one cares about that. They just want to talk about what I look like, or, ask me. It's very uncomfortable. They all want to go to dinner. What is that? And he was like, you have a problem with that? And I said, I do. Yeah, I do. He says, you're crazy. That's how you get into this industry. What would make you think that people care what you think? I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? I've wanted to do this my whole life. What am I going to do if no one cares what I think? I had nothing to do with what I look like, but I can become more intelligent. I can read, and I have a point of view. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. And I worked at some different places. I just didn't know. And then I went,
I hear some things. And I get to this whole sheet. She's done a lot of things, but there's some things I'm hearing. When you talked about your line with Forgotten Woman, I hear inclusivity. Yeah. I know that ethos carries through almost everything you do and what you're doing now. I hear purpose-driven. Sure, it would have been fun. I would have imagined that you'd be one of the names we know on the news or in media. You have that thing, and it is your beauty is part of it, but that doesn't carry you but so far.
Right.
Why that's the entree and this doesn't, the entry point, and all the stuff behind it isn't what the entry point is. I don't know. You can always makeup. You do anything you want to do with makeup. Correct. Make a regular. You know what I mean? So exactly. It's sad to hear that that's limiting, and I hope that that's beginning to change. We're hearing some, certainly, and you may have been one of the pioneers in the size inclusivity space.
It's important.
And then you have people like Ashley Graham, who's got curvy girls like us wearing bikinis. I'm wearing bikinis at my age.
That's lovely.
And it's not because I think I'm so fabulous. It's because I can enjoy the sun or the surf like anybody else.
That's exactly right.
And it's just fine.
That's right. And who gets to be the judge?
Who gets to be the judge? Yeah. I know that you are throwing your beautiful hat in another ring. And I am it doesn't sound like any of these.
No.
And so I'm so curious. What I imagine is that some of these same ethos these ethics that you developed all along are also powering your new decision.
That is the absolute.
I'm sure I'll get back to bringing up some more of these accomplishments. I'll talk about some of her passions, how they've manifested themselves in your volunteer work with the PTO. I know you're very involved in your son's schools, theater, inclusion committee for their high school district, active board member in the New Albany district, but now you are running for office.
Yes.
I love it. I just love it on so many levels for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk about that. First, let's tell the audience what office you're running for and why it's important not only to vote, but for people to step up, for citizens to step into the political process and up into increase their civic engagement. So tell us what you're running for.
Well, first, I just want to thank you for saying that, because what you see when you're at home watching it on television and being in it are two entirely different things. Yeah. And so I'm running for New Albany City Council. And the reason I'm running for New Albany City Council is because as a member of the community, Well, there are a few reasons, but the number one reason is, as a member of the community, I would go out and meet people. And when I first decided we were going to move there, because I love the schools and it's a beautiful community, and I would talk to people who didn't live in New Albany, and they'd say, "What?
Why are you moving there?
Why are you moving to New Albany?" I said, "Well, why am I not moving to New Albany? What, a secret?" I was like, "Well, there's nobody that looks like you there. It's an all-white, homogenous, exclusive community." And I said, "Well, I haven't found it to be that. It's actually quite diverse. I wonder why people are saying that." Then you look at the magazines that come to the house.
The neighborhood magazines.
That's right.
Yeah.
White fence living. We're not in that. Then you look at sophisticated living, or the representation just wasn't there. So why not? So now I'm talking to my neighbors who are very diverse. And when I say diverse, often people think I mean black or white. That's not the diversity that I'm talking about. You mentioned it earlier. Inclusivity is very important to me. I have traveled the world with fashion and my jobs. And the world it's a beautiful thing to see because the world is diverse, right? And that diversity is in New Albany. We have neighbors from Turkey and China and Africa, and and Great Britain. Like, no matter where you bring it up, there's probably someone in New Albany who's from there. But that's not the reputation. That's not the reputation. That's not the representation. So then when you start to look at being a very active person in the community and meeting all the people who are in seats of power, and nobody looks like you. And you're like, well, how is that possible? So then I'm talking to other people. I'm like, why haven't you stepped up? Like, we just moved here 5 years ago, but you've been here for 15 years. You've been here for 20 years. Oh, I didn't see anybody do it. I don't see anybody who looks like me. Oh, you have to see somebody before you do it. Okay.
And that matters. That does matter.
It does matter.
But somebody has to.
So I've never had that luxury of seeing somebody in roles that I'm in before I take that step. So I said, okay, I guess this is another message. I guess I need to step up, right? And then I found out that the New Albany City Council race has not been contested since 2009. So now we know that there are elections every year, but no one has contested the people who are in seats of power in New Albany City Council since 2009. So there's been no choice given to the community of who they want to be in that seat, right?
I wonder how common that is in communities, that you just those that are there are the ones that stay.
Even like there are a lot of contested races going on right now, like Upper Arlington and Dublin, and they haven't necessarily been, the people who've been in power there haven't necessarily been reflective of their community, but they've had contested races. Okay. So this is kind of new for them. Okay. And I just couldn't let the opportunity go. Because I said, New Albany's doing amazing stuff with building. And we're building this international business park, building new houses, new developments. So the zoning, check, they're on it, right? The zoning committees. But the community is not just those buildings. The community is the people. And what are we doing to bring all of the people into the process, or to reflect all the people when we're planning these events? And no one could answer that. I said, well, how would you know what someone else wants? Have you ever had a conversation with someone else? Right? And so the more conversations I had, the more I was just fueled. I had to do it. I just thought, you know what? I spend my career being that person, making sure people were included in the thought, in the idea, in the process. And so I can't be a full Kimberly if I'm living in a community where my only involvement is to volunteer, when I could take a chance, step up, and show people just how much fuller this fabulous community could be if we really were inclusive and welcoming to all of the neighbors. And so, as we're building out the businesses, do we have women business owners involved in that process? Who's getting those contracts, right? Are there minorities who are getting those contracts? So let's think about that as we're planning our fall festivals, and are we providing entertainment for the whole community? As we're looking at what the schools are doing, there have been a lot of issues in New Albany with racial and, just terrible treatment of people who are different, who might be on the fray or just different from the majority. And they want to make it a school issue. Well, it's not a school issue. It happens at the school. But it's a home issue. It's a community issue. And so those are some of the reasons why I chose to run for city council.
Well, I love it. And I know that you have been endorsed by some pretty good organizations. The Matriots is one. There's another endorsement I saw recently. I meant to write down.
The AFL-CIO.
I did know that one. Isn't there? There's another.
The Young Dems.
Young Dems.
And the Democratic, Franklin County Democratic Party. And you're right, there's another one.
Yep, there's another one that I thought was a female organization. Oh, sorry, put you on the spot. But we'll put it in the notes later on.
I'm sorry.
We want to give you your props.
The whole idea of endorsements, they send you this list of all these organizations that want to endorse you. You have to, interview and fill out these applications. And I wanted it to be very focused on the endorsements because I felt it was even more important, instead of having organizations, large organizations that endorse for, that's what they do.
That's what they do, yeah.
To have members of the community endorse me and to do community spotlights and to talk to people in the community. Because if I'm going to be in your community, you need to know that I'm a good person. I'm there to do the right thing for the people. And what's interesting is, as I've been out knocking on doors, canvassing and meeting neighbors, there were a few people who are like, "Are you a Republican?" Because they don't want to talk to you if you're not, right? I'm like, well, this is a nonpartisan race, and I grew up with a Republican father, Democrat mother, so it's about the people and the issues. I'm not a single issue person, and so I was talking to a gentleman this weekend. I think he's probably in his 70s. So he's seen a lot. So he wanted to tell me that he has seen a lot. And he said, look, here's how I feel. I don't care what party you are. I need to know that you're intelligent. I need to know that you have people's interest as your number one reason for doing this. And I have to know that you're a reasonable person, right? And you have good morals. He said, that's what's important to me. That's what leaders used to be. That's what politics used to be. And now it's gotten so divisive because people put party or that one issue ahead of people, and they just almost a dervish. So I think that that's important. I think that the endorsements are important. The Matriots was my number one endorsement that I really felt that meant so much. Not that the others don't. I don't want anyone to feel that they've endorsed me in vain, but the Matriots as a women's organization that is focused nonpartisan on just getting 50% of the candidates to be women. And you would think that shouldn't be hard, but it is so difficult.
I would imagine. It is hard. I love the conversation you had with that gentleman, because he doesn't seem to have been stifled by cynicism. I was having a conversation with my husband and some other friends the other day, and I thought I have seen myself become more and more cynical. I've always thought of myself as someone who was interested in the array of life and stories, and have believed that if you have different voices and different perspectives at the table, your better solutions are going to come from all those spaces. But our current climate, we get funneled into kind of echo chambers, and they're driven by the extreme voices, which probably are not They can't be. They're nowhere near the majority of the voices. There's a slim margin
Right.
on either side, yelling at each other. This one's telling you what that one's thinking, that one's telling you what this one's thinking. And I found myself becoming very cynical and making some generalized statements that I wouldn't respect hearing from someone else. It really, I mean, I'm a therapist, so I'm always analyzing my thoughts. So I thought, I am becoming something I don't respect.
Wow.
I'm not going to do that.
That's deep.
It was not a fun self-revelation, but it was easy. It was easy. It was an easy slide into that cynical space. And no one's going to push you out of that space.
Mm.
That's comfortable. That's in your spot over here and these people in that spot over there. You can talk about them and not like them and disengage from them. And it's comfortable because no one in your silos is challenging you.
How do you do that self-challenge?
I started listening to some of the things I said.
So you heard them as they came out.
I heard them as they came out.
Mm-hmm.
I have some people around me who have had similar kind of my original perspective. They're like, this does not sound like you. Like, what? And I'm like, it doesn't. But it feels good right now.
Right.
It doesn't. I'm at confession. I'm not yet at repentance, but I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
And I've been, and at another time I'll talk about something that I've started with a partner that I think engages those conversations. But I find that more and more people, it's so easy to slide into cynicism.
Absolutely.
And as you're knocking on doors, what are you encountering? That man to me a beautiful ray of sunshine for him to say, tell me about your character.
Yeah. I am mostly, if people answer the door, most people don't answer.
Sure.
But when they do answer, I get, well, this is refreshing in New Albany. Wow. And people want to know more about me. Okay. Well, tell me about you, or they'll ask questions or, very few people have had challenges or concerns. The biggest concern that I've heard is, what are we going to do with our teens and tweens after school, the ones who aren't involved in activities? What can we do? And I love that because that gives me an opportunity to share some creative things that I did in New Jersey before we moved here, and partnering with, finding open spaces and partnering with the city and partnering with other businesses to create real programming and a fun place for kids to go. Not a community center, but a place for kids to, the high school students worked there. The middle schoolers came and there was walls of candy and fun, like inexpensive things for them to buy. Their parents set up accounts. So it was like they had this independence, but we partnered with the music school and they were able to do music lessons. And, it was just always having something. We did concerts for the schools, and so I enjoy those conversations. There's only been, I think there were 2 people. One just didn't want to look at me, didn't want to stop doing what they were doing, told me to leave, my materials on the top of their car. Another woman just challenged until finally she was like, oh, you're really bright. It's like, okay, I'm going to swallow what I'm thinking. Right. So, and that's been okay. There has been a whisper, 2 whisper campaigns, vote for her. That's the check for diversity. Don't vote for her. She's, angry Black woman. And she's just going to focus on what what Black people need. And I thought, how dumb is that? So there have only been white people in these seats of power. So how many times did you say that about those white people? They're only going to focus on what the white people want. That's not what life is about. And if that were the case, then we should have a whole bunch of different people up in seats. And I'm hoping, like that is really a large reason too. Because if I get into city council, and I hope this doesn't scare anybody, but this is true, I hope that it allows people to see that anyone can do it. If you're a part of this community, then you should be a part of the process. right? So here's the door. Please follow in my footsteps. There's another race in 23.
I think that's very important. Well, all of you think about those, the people whose books we read or whose sayings they were often pioneers. And then others follow in their footsteps. Every awards show in the arts talks about the people who broke down the doors. And now, as I hear your story, it makes perfect sense to me. I thought this is a huge leap from what I know about you, at least from the fashion industry. I know we have a few things in common. I moved here from New Jersey as well. We're into other service organizations together. We're sorority sisters and serve in the links together. So that's very neat. But I thought, what on earth drove her to this? And now I see it as actually a beautiful continuation of skills and passions and the word ethos is just in my head today, that you've been building and displaying consistently just in different venues. So this is another startup for you in many ways that comes out of passion. I know that you've been married to your husband, Mark. You've got 2 sons who came through the New Albany school system. One's in college. Where did
He's at Morehouse.
He's at Morehouse. I
Very
love that.
proud
He'll be
of
a
him.
Morehouse man.
Yeah.
And one of your sons is very much a creative in the theater space. We were chatting about that's a passion of mine. I think if I'd known that could have been an option, that would have been what I'd have done in life. But I've had many other opportunities to use my creativity. So it'll be fun to watch his journey as well.
You know, as people always ask, well, where does it come from? Right? Well, his parents are creative.
Yeah.
You know, Mark sings beautifully. He writes music.
No, I didn't.
He's an attorney.
Yeah.
People wouldn't put that together. Yeah. And then, you know, my first love was dance. And so I wanted to be Debbie Allen, you know.
So do you hear that? Debbie Allen, doorbuster.
Saw her.
Yeah, saw her.
I get chills when I think about it. And I was in a junior company. It was called Orchesis International. It was a junior company for Philadelphia. And the big audition was coming. And here's another, like, how your journey kind of wiggles and moves. And it was the Thursday before the audition. Now, I was 18, so this is a long time ago, but I'll never forget it. And I was running late for something. I ran out of school to go to my car because I was parked in where I wasn't supposed to be parked. I was parked in the teacher's parking lot. But evidently, I wasn't the only one parked in that lot. And so I was running, and it was pouring down rain. And you know those bubble umbrellas?
Yes, I remember those.
I had my bubble umbrella pulled down. I'm running. And next thing I know, the ambulances and people are screaming. And I was like, what happened? So someone else was parked in the teacher's parking lot and was trying to get out faster than I was. And so he backed up, he hit me. He went over me. Then he didn't know what he hit. So he went back over me. Now, I didn't feel pain. I just knew I hit the ground really hard. And there was something heavy on me. Well, there was no audition after that, right? Clearly. So I had to, get myself back. But it's always been it's been a love of mine. So when my older one will try it, like he'll try it, but he'll quickly tell you that's not gifts. For me. Right? So he wanted to try Alvin Ailey. And his little brother just loved dancing. And so I took them both. Okay. And the little one stuck with it. Yeah. And so it warms me just to see how Mark and I come out in the boys, So, yeah. I'm very proud of that.
I am. I was really looking forward to this conversation today for so many reasons, but it's just been nice sitting here getting to know you. And I didn't know about your own love of the arts and theater, and that your husband sings, and just all of the industries that you've touched and transformed. I'm excited for New Albany. I hope they do the right thing.
I do too.
And because I think that's the right thing. I don't know who else is running. No disrespect to anybody who's stepping up to serve in their communities. I very much admire that. But you have quite a track record of transformation for good reasons, for inclusiveness, not for exclusiveness. Yeah.
And it does throw people though, because people put you where they see you.
Yeah.
Right. So they've seen me in fashion. They've seen me in these global roles running, design organizations.
I didn't even mention Bumbershoot.
Yeah. Well, that's fine.
That's
We'll talk again. But they see you in that space. So then when you move to another space, and I experienced that when I moved here, because I came here to be a senior executive for L Brands. And when I decided to leave and go back to school and start my business, people were like, and I stopped getting some invitations
to social things,
to things. Yeah. Like, oh, well, this might not be, the right thing for you. Or, this is for people who work in corporate America, or these for people who have certain titles, or this person's. And I said, well, that's interesting, because I've had a lot of
camera.
I've had a lot of titles, and this is the one I'm most excited about because it's going to be my own business. And right now I'm preparing for it. I went back to Wharton so that I could brush up on my grad school education. And then I went to Stanford Business School, their graduate business school, for organizational excellence in inclusion and equity, leveraging inclusion and equity, because it's such an important part of me. And I knew how I felt personally, but I thought, let me just take it a step further, because I want that to be in everything I do.
Love it. If I'm not going to say if, I'm going to ask you to say a few words to your younger self. Before you know you're going to have this vast array of experiences, before you even know about what obstacles, what challenges you're going to overcome, how would you encourage, not that you're a younger Kimberly, an even younger Kimberly, to use your life experience and keep moving?
Well, I would say to her to really slow down. You'll get there. Take the time to learn how to network and really build those strong relationships younger, because I'm an only child, right? The community the neighborhood that I grew up in, a lot of who I am now is a result of that, but I didn't know it because I didn't slow down long enough to really embrace what was happening around me. My mom and dad went to court to buy the house that I grew up in, because we were the first Black family for 12 years. And it didn't mean anything to me then. Sure. Right? Like, well, okay, whatever.
Because their parents doing what parents do, trying to provide the best home they can for their kids.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Right. And I saw what they did in community to be a part of the community and to make difference. And that community is different right now because of what they did, in part. Right. Sure. But again, I didn't really slow down enough to really take in what was going on around me. I was so focused on, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to achieve this, I have to do this, that I didn't sit in each step. And so I would say to Kimberly, because I say this to my children, sit in it.
Sit in it.
Sit in it.
I think that's the word, sit in it. Sit in your, I often talk about how you only have the day you have. I've just come off a week of incredible tragic losses. And it's often those kind of stories that remind you that you've got to live the day you have. Yeah. Tomorrow isn't promised. That's true. Well, they say buy insurance, get an education, but live for today. I plan for tomorrow and live for today. And those stories often shake you into that. But what if we just saw the opportunity to live the day we have without fear of not having the next day, that there is something in sitting in the space you're in this space because this is the space you need to be in. Let's not miss what it has to give you. And I think most of our motivations, you talked all through your story about people. Your examples were conversations with people. I always say I come from a Christian faith base. I don't have to push that, but my perspective is all truth is God's truth. And I think only people are eternal, not the buildings. New Albany is a beautiful community, like you said, with incredible structure. It's a beautiful aesthetic community. But a community is made of the people. And you're taking the time to hear the stories of the people. And I love that. And that seems consistent throughout your life. I love that. Best of luck to you. If you're in the New Albany area, or if you just know Kimberly like I do, I'm going to be writing some cards or something to help you out. Go out and vote on November 3rd. Is it this?
November 2nd.
It's
and
2nd.
If you're registered, you can go today. Like, make it work for you.
Make it work.
Right? You can go today. And I hope everyone comes out.
I hope so. I think we can't miss these middle elections. Everything is community.
And that's
everything is.
That's
all
what happens.
Politics are local, as they say.
Yeah. That's what happens. People say, "Oh, I'm going to vote for the president."
Yeah.
And then they don't go out again for 4 years.
Yeah. Well, lady, I just want to toast you. I made us a cocktail. I've been sipping on mine. You've been sipping on yours. I made it with bourbon and apple cider, a little bit of lemon juice, bitters, and we just garnished it with some Granny Smith apples and a lemon. So cheers to you. Best of luck in your race and all your, I'm sure, many more new endeavors. This has been Tales from the Shaker, a Davia Williams Stevenson podcast. Thank you for joining.